Hello, welcome to IPDAE's Webinar Wednesday. Today, our webinar is Packaging Your Professional Development, Part 2. My name is Ann Morgan, and I'm the Adult Education Coordinator and AGE Grant Manager for Pinellas County Schools. I'm responsible for the professional development of over 100 full and part-time teachers in our district. Today, we will discuss some ways to make this momentous task a little easier, whether you have 100 teachers or 5 teachers. And now, before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded and will be archived on the IPDAE website within 48 hours. If you have a question, please type it in the box. I will try to answer as we go through the presentation, but if I miss any, I will answer any remaining questions at the end of the presentation. Our objectives for today. In this session, we will explore professional development planning and needs assessment processes and surveys. We'll look at what research says adult education teachers want in professional development, and also examine a survey we used in our own district with our teachers that yielded a wealth of useful PD planning information. We're going to learn about tailoring resources for classroom instruction and teacher evaluations. Changes in how teachers are evaluated, school accountability, and advances in curriculum rigor and technology, among others, now drives most of the PD we develop today. And you'll get some ideas, tools, and resources you can use to help facilitate these changes. We'll also talk about developing trainings that target weaknesses in teacher curriculum knowledge. How are your teachers addressing skill gaps or weaknesses in curriculum knowledge that are emerging from the last few years of the new and much more rigorous assessments? Included is a plan to help identify individual as well as district teacher needs. And finally, talking about creating collegial opportunities for teachers to share best practices. What are some ways you can provide opportunities for teachers to share, mentor, and learn from each other while extending and expanding the reach of your professional development options? 2 ongoing projects we use in Pinellas will give you some new ideas on helping develop this process. Learning Forward is an international association dedicated to improving educator and student learning and is responsible for the professional learning standards and protocols we use in Florida. We discussed those in detail during part 1 of this webinar, and they can be found in the resource guide from that session as well as on the FLDOE website. Stephanie Hirsch, the former executive director of Learning Forward, has identified several aspects of the traditional professional development process that needed to change. She states, the profession has increasingly recognized that it really needed to reassess what we were doing. There is an urgent demand. Professional learning used to be a benefit of employment. Now it's a requisite of teachers' practices improvement. In Florida, as well as other states around the nation, teacher evaluations now have ties to compensation and advancement in the profession. So the need for professional development that serves those needs has become an integral part of what teachers say they need and want from their trainings. The following are suggestions from NCSAL, the National Center for the Study of Adult Learning and Literacy, that target what teachers in Florida's adult education classrooms ask for most and say must be included for effective trainings. They found that teachers prefer professional development surveys that include the following. First, PD programs that only last a few hours are not very meaningful to teachers. Research shows PD programs of 14 hours or less per year did not affect student achievement or fail to even change teachers' practices. But how to do this in adult education, where many teachers work part-time in the evening or teach full-time during the day? Varying options in the style of delivery, including face-to-face, which is the most requested by teachers, webinar events, Think IPDAE, professional learning communities, PLCs, or COPs, community of practice, coaching and modeling, teacher-driven observation, peer observation, visiting other teachers' classrooms, to name a few. Also, consider incorporating flexible time slots, after school, collaborative planning, early release days, in the early evening, even Saturdays. We never did Saturday trainings in our district, thinking no one would want to give up a weekend day. But with some incentives, such as stipends, recertification credits, flex time, or trade days, we've made our Saturday workshops an attractive option and see great attendance, especially whenever we schedule a face-to-face IPDAE training, which we've had one this year and one for the last 3 or 4 years, quite popular. Second, teachers consistently express the desire to update their personal curriculum knowledge while exchanging ideas and strategies with colleagues to better improve their teaching craft and increase student outcomes. These areas have become increasingly important with higher stakes teacher evaluations. Third, teachers appreciate the differentiation that comes with leveling training specifically for new teachers as opposed to veterans. There's nothing worse than sitting through a training with information you already know or with novices who don't have the basics to build on. This is readily apparent in software trainings in particular. It is important to schedule software trainings that target beginning or new to the district teachers, as well as advanced classes for teachers who want to dig deeper and expand their knowledge of additional features within the program. Fourth, knowledge and familiarity with software resources is imperative and often needs ongoing upgrading and refining. But the last 10 years has seen an explosion in the ever-changing world of technology. Not only in the succession from paper-based testing to computer-based assessments, but in the types of questions and answer choices we've seen in GED 2014, TABE 11 and 12, and CASAS. Finally, adult educators often come from varied backgrounds. Didn't all start out as education majors. So including options in your needs assessment surveys that address general classroom management techniques, strategies for English language learners, and adults with disabilities should help to address any of those needs your teacher may have. Remember, it's almost impossible to know what teachers want or need for professional development if you don't ask. So starting and/or ending each year with a survey to find common areas of teacher training needs will allow you to facilitate meaningful and effective sessions and workshops. In our district, teachers' needs surveys are usually completed at our spring district training for the following year. In your resource guide, pages 2 to 4, you can find this editable sample of a teacher needs professional development survey we used in our district last year. This was sent electronically through our LMS, our learning management system, and any non-return surveys were given follow-up prompts. In addition to asking about specific curriculum and technology areas, we also included other areas of interest and invited suggestions for additional subjects or topics. We also wanted to gauge the intensity of the interest level for each possible subject area training in order to ensure the planning process would be more accurate and address the highest level of common needs. So we included the options in the survey of very interested, moderately interested, or not interested for each topic. Distinct patterns and areas of common interest emerged, and the needs assessment process gave us a good overview of what we should try to implement right away, as well as areas of focus for a few years into the future. We found that an overwhelming majority of teachers wanted more specific curriculum and software trainings to beef up their own skills, as well as strategies and accommodations teachers can provide to work with students with different learning styles. We'll talk more about how we drilled down into specific curriculum skill areas that teachers felt they needed refreshing on later in this workshop. On page 2 of your survey shown here, you can see that we list all the software programs we use in Pinellas, as well as other topics of interest, such as utilizing data analysis to improve classroom instruction and recruitment and retention ideas. On the final page of the survey, we included an expandable text box for teachers to make their own professional development topic suggestions. And even if we have only one or two suggestions for a particular topic, a follow-up survey may be sent with those ideas to gauge additional teacher interest before we schedule a workshop in that focus area. As I mentioned before, we offer a wide range of days and times, as well as early, pre-release, preschool, and Saturday options. So, what do teachers really want? Listed here are the three main areas of focus we found in Pinellas from the last 4 or 5 years of teacher needs surveys. Obviously, results in your districts or colleges will vary, but I think we have some common themes in Pinellas that would be shared by all educators. Though individual areas of emphasis and results vary from year to year, teachers seem to have overwhelmingly expressed the desire to have additional trainings that address the following: research-based information and data that's relevant and useful to my unique classroom setting and population, and can be tailored to help me improve my teacher evaluation. So highly desired among our educators are trainings that will help them demonstrate innovative and research-based practices in their professional craft, which leads to a highly effective or effective rating during their teacher evaluation process. There remains a strong monetary incentive to earn a higher rating in our district, as about $600 to $1,200 raises separates highly effective and effective ratings from teachers who must show improvement. In particular, teachers are looking for resources to use in their lessons that are research-based and innovative. Sometimes you want to wow your observer with something that's different from the norm. In Pinellas County, as I know in many counties in Florida, we use the Marzano Instructional Evaluation Model Map and protocols for teacher evaluations, which has an emphasis on ensuring students at all levels are grasping the concepts of the lessons. This is especially important in adult education, where the needs of ELL students, adults with special needs, and students at varying academic skill levels comprise our classrooms. Coming up, we will show you resources that can be tailored to meet, in our district, Marzano protocols, but even the processes of whatever system your college or district is using. Teachers also said they wanted trainings that fill in the gaps in my personal curriculum base and strategies and resources to implement this knowledge in my classroom. One kind of surprising reveal from our PD survey was the number of teachers who were less than confident about their own personal knowledge and skill level teaching the higher rigor of the CCR standards that we saw starting with GED 2014 and continuing through the recent release of TABE 11 and 12. As in most districts, adult educators come from all backgrounds and levels of expertise. Sure, we all experienced high school and college level curriculum sometime in our lives, and some teachers are obviously subject level experts. But the leap to CCR standards took many educators by surprise, and they soon realized they needed to refresh those skills that may have been languishing for several years. In Pinellas, the location of many adult ed classrooms follow that one-room schoolhouse model. So regardless of a teacher's academic certification, he or she still needs to know all the curriculum in order to teach it. Later, we'll discuss how we drilled down into the most common areas of needs and how we helped our teachers get that refreshing they wanted to feel confident with the curriculum. Lastly, teachers said they wanted sessions that allow time to share and collaborate with colleagues and see new techniques that will help me improve and stay connected to my students. Teachers seldom want to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Learning with and from each other, extending and expanding knowledge from trainings, workshops, webinars, is always at the top of our teachers' list of needs and wants. Two ways we have found to address this in Pinellas is through the use of a COP, or Community of Practice, and our annual Summer Symposium Conference, which is one day a year of teachers teaching teachers. Following the lead of professional development organizations like IPDAE, ACE of Florida, and the Florida Literacy Coalition, we've created a way for teachers to showcase their very best strategies, ideas, and resources with their colleagues and have fun while they're doing it. The best professional development we know is always by teachers for teachers. And we know where we can turn to for those strategies and ideas to create fun and exciting lessons for classroom instruction or as tools for teacher evaluations. You guessed it, IPDAE. So whether you access IPDAE in a face-to-face setting by attending a workshop or individually for lesson ideas, you know the resources you find there are research-based and ready to roll. Many of our teachers are using them as tools to guide their lessons for observations in the teacher evaluation process. Let's look at an example of a teacher-developed lesson plan template utilizing materials from an IPDAE training event. Just as a caveat, creating, developing, and presenting a lesson for a teacher evaluation is a self-directed task, and teachers are solely responsible for the content and processes used. This is just one example of how IPDAE resources can be incorporated into a lesson plan. Last year in Pinellas, on one of those Saturday trainings, IPDAE held a face-to-face training called Resources for Building Capacity for Florida, ABE to GED. And it was in our district. The following template uses materials and ideas from that workshop and integrates them into the evaluative tool, the Marzano tool that we use in Pinellas. This is an example of that sample lesson plan gleaned from Marzano, the Marzano teaching lesson plan template. This slide actually shows information from Learning Target A. The great thing about using IPDAE resources for this process is how easily the sections align to each other, as we will see as we go through the next few slides. The titles and wording vary a bit, but the content between the Marzano template and the IPDAE template for lesson plans and workshops are essentially the same. You can see at the bottom under resources on this template, we use those resource guides. There has to be a better way, teaching grammar and structure and context. We had handouts. We used some videos and some realistic things from the Tampa Bay Times newspaper, articles from flyers and things like that. But we kind of follow the IPDAE guide, as we'll see as we go along here. Here's an example of, not everyone can attend an IPDAE training event face-to-face, but since IPDAE does have that large repository of ready-made lessons and resources, teachers can access them anytime the need arises. Here I showed you in a comparison of the nomenclature used in a Marzano lesson plan compared to an IPDAE lesson plan, so you can see how easily transferable they are. For instance, the title and learning targets from Marzano are very closely aligned to the objectives and standards from an IPDAE plan. You can see A in the learning targets for Marzano says students can list, illustrate, give examples of punctuation marks. B, students can demonstrate command of the conventions of standard English capitalization and punctuation while writing. In IPDAE, it says, under standards, demonstrate command of the conventions of standard English capitalization, punctuation, and spelling when writing. And then the level expectation kind of spells things out. So again, very closely aligned in that section. Here, the instructional strategies and techniques section of Marzano are quite similar to the instructional plan and process portion excuse me, of the IPDAE lesson plan. Since IPDAE lesson plans are so robust, there are often many ideas a teacher can select from for the different types of observations in our teacher evaluation process. Once the Marzano plan is looking at just one specific skill or objective that teachers want their administrator to observe. So having lots of options in the IPDAE plan is quite useful. Here's another example in Marzano. The student evidence section determines the outcome of using the instructional strategy, and potential adaptions outlines how to differentiate the lesson to reach all learners on some level. This lines up very well with IPDAE's modification for different levels and the assessments and extensions on an IPDAE plan. So again, you can see very clearly how IPDAE lessons are ready to implement no matter what system is required, evaluation system is required in your district or college. So next, let's look at a different aspect of teacher-driven professional development, one which addresses those skill gaps and strengthens a teacher's curriculum knowledge and confidence. Another area teachers overwhelmingly express they would like to see more of in professional development offerings involved in awareness and understanding of the CCR standards, as well as their own skill set and knowledge within that framework. As we know, the realm of adult education has changed dramatically over the past 10 to 20 years, not only in the accessibility of curriculum resources and delivery systems, but also that introduction of more rigorous standards and the new exams based on those standards. These exams' dynamic included more questions based on critical thinking and analysis, problem solving, more real-world application, and this shift changed everything about how teachers deliver instruction. And of course, professional development must follow along. Fear. Fear is a great motivator, one which can encourage innovation and success or sink your confidence and ability to move forward. When curriculum standards changes forced teachers to think about their own individual level of expertise with each subject they were teaching, we knew our professional development needed to bolster their knowledge and give them the tools and resources they needed to meet any challenges they felt they were facing. And as Roy T. Bennett says here, instead of worrying about what you cannot control, shift your energy to what you can create. So that's what we tried to do. This new shift in professional development started as the run-up to GED 2014. We knew there would be challenges and obstacles along the way. In particular, and number one was how to address those new rigorous CCR standards while increasing practitioner curriculum content knowledge. In addition, any PD plan we would put in place had to also provide opportunities to interact with the new exam structure and protocols, question types, and test tools available in a computer-delivered format. Up to this point, adult education was primarily a paper-pencil-driven experience, certainly for GED, one which teachers as well as students were familiar and comfortable with. When I started in adult education 26 years ago, that was quite a while in the last century, we were giving a paper-pencil version of TABE 7/8. I remember that answer sheet, and perhaps a few of you do. It was a carbon form. Students would pencil the dots. You had to separate the forms to see the often smeared purple marks to determine if the answer was correct. Then you needed to assign work based on the skills correlated to those little purple smeary marks. Of course, in the early 2000s, we came into the 21st century. It would TABE 910 came along, followed by the PC version. What a change that was from the previous TABE versions. You took the test on a computer. TABE Online was close behind. The technological age had finally caught up to adult ed. This change was a bit difficult for those less tech-savvy teachers. But as we know, change is inevitable, and through effective professional development, teachers gave up those paper-pencil versions. That was the easy part of the battle. But those new standards, adopted in 2013 by the Office of Career, Technical and Adult Education, OCTAE, were a game changer. Now we were talking about curriculum that was at a much more rigorous level than what most adult educators were used to teaching. This created an immediate need for professional development that focused on curriculum some teachers had not been exposed to for 10, 20, possibly even 30 years, in the mathematics arena in particular. Though the GED test series has changed and evolved over the years since its inception in the 1940s, nothing has been as dramatic as the shift that took place during the transition from 2002 to 2014. Major curriculum challenges involving mathematical reasoning, the shift from 25 to 55% algebra was especially frightening for teachers who were not math majors, as well as the transition from that elementary level 5-paragraph essay to a constructed response based on evidence for others, all seem to contribute to urgent pleas for curriculum-based professional development. Teachers who were comfortable with the previous test format of multiple choice answers could use answer elimination strategies and help students whittle down responses. But with the addition of short answer, fill in the blank, and extended response for science and social studies subjects, teachers were desperate for new tools to use. So how could we determine exactly what teachers needed most and present it quickly and efficiency? This was the professional development challenge. So once we knew the challenges, we had to reassure teachers we heard them and had a plan to address the fears and refresh those skill gaps. All we needed to do was eliminate the fear and approach this new endeavor with a positive mindset. As Carol Dweck said, in a growth mindset, challenges are exciting rather than threatening. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to reveal my weaknesses, you say, wow, here's a chance to grow. Of course, all our teachers felt that way. We needed to change our professional development model for these changes. So we borrowed a page from the Adult Education Playbook. How do you determine what curriculum areas students need to remediate when they first enter our classrooms? An initial assessment of skills, of course. So we thought giving teachers an assessment, the same one students take, would be a great way to see just what skills teachers were lacking, and from that data, we could formulate district-wide trainings for common areas of remediation. It would also give each teacher a personalized profile of his or her own unique needs to improve their individual skill set. As you can imagine, this strategy was met with some initial angst and trepidation from several teachers. What do you mean I have to take a test, they said, and then turn it in? Several of our administrators also agreed to take the assessments, as well as district-level coordinators. Even our executive director took up the gauntlet. There was actually a bit of the competitive spirit at hand when that happened. Personally, I'd like to say I got a perfect 200 score in these social studies, just saying. We also relied on some of the offerings from IPDAE and conference workshops sponsored by ACE of Florida to develop trainings on test structure, level of complexity, new elements, and delivery of the test series to help allay some of the unknown factors of the new exam. Once we tested our teachers and had the results, we needed to create a plan to remediate and support teachers' acquisition of knowledge with no judgment about where they were academically or how far they may needed to go. We would give total support as members of the team and be sure that we'd leave no one behind. So the GED Ready was available, and ultimately was the practice test was ultimately the end goal for all of our students before they took the actual exam. So as a district, we purchased enough extra units so that all full and part-time teachers could take each of the 4 subject exams. We used a professional development day when no students were present for full-timers, and part-timers were given hours on a non-student contact day to complete their exams. Having teachers submit their results anonymously seemed to alleviate the objections and fears teachers were expressing, so that judgment factor was eliminated. We made sure everyone understood this was to drive our professional development and not to be used against anyone. Once teachers took the exams, they were asked to submit their individualized study plan recommendations you get from GED Ready to the school with their names whited out, so no one knew who they were, what they were turning in. These results were tallied, accumulated, and rated according to a rubric we created using the categories of critical, high, medium, or low area of skill weakness. A critical area of remedial need meant that more than 75% of the teachers missed that skill on the exam. A high area was 50 to 75% missed it. Medium level was 25 to 50, and a low area meant that less than 25% of the people who took the exam missed that particular skill. Teachers were asked to work on their own study recommendations individually so that they knew what their plan was for them, and the district started to formulate plans to address all critical and high areas that were indicated by the results. How did we do? Well, I'm happy to report that the overwhelming majority of our teachers' data indicated low or medium remedial need. But not surprisingly, mathematical reasoning showed the highest levels of missed questions by our teachers. Remember, critical means 75% of teachers missed this skill on the exam. The other subjects revealed as a district teaching force. In science, we had 2 critical and 4 high areas of remedial need. Social studies, we had 1 critical and 3 high. RLA had 2 high, no critical. So we did pretty well on that. But as you would imagine, the math was the hardest. We did have over 100 teachers participate, several administrators, as I mentioned, and the CTA executive director took it, and he actually published his scores. And our mathematical reasoning, we had 2 critical areas of need and 4 high. So that was the biggest one that we really needed to focus our professional development in. Just in the interest of sharing, our critical and high areas in mathematical reasoning were the first areas we addressed in our PD plan, and we did that very quickly. As you can see, our critical areas, and remember this was more than 75% of the people who took the test, missed questions in this area, was solving quadratic equations, 1 variable, and solving problems with inequalities and graphing solutions on a number line. Those high areas that were revealed, also not too surprisingly, absolute value, volume and surface area of 3D and composite figures, proportional relationships and quadratic functions, and converting scale factors. Subsequent data released from the GED testing service has shown that coincidentally, these skills also seem to be areas students miss frequently, and almost all of those areas that we identified as critical or high areas have also been identified by the GED testing service as high impact areas teachers should emphasize in their instruction. So it makes a lot of sense to think that areas that teachers may be struggling with in their own curriculum knowledge are also areas that we're not able to help the students with as much as we would like to. So now it was time to kind of put our plan into action. So right away, within a month, we hired some subject certified teachers in math to develop trainings that specifically address those critical and high areas for each topic. We started with math and then social studies, science, and RLA had been our best showing, and that was our last one that we did, but we worked them all in within that same year. We also, that great software that we have, we created some lessons that were shared with all the teachers that targeted those common areas of need, even going down to the medium and low areas. So teachers, when they're working on their own personal plans, could just pull up that software that they have in their classroom they use with the students and go ahead and go through the lessons themselves. So it seemed to work out pretty well. In math, The first thing we did was we offered an algebra boot camp and mathematical reasoning and geometry sessions because of the volume. We also did a session on using that new calculator that we had with GED 2014. Attendance was strongly encouraged at all of our workshops, and they were repeated in all sections of the county and at different times so that part-timers and full-timers could attend. Teachers were offered recertification component points and stipends to complete their own individualized study plan with a willingness to take a post-test to ensure understanding and reveal any other areas needing support. So if they were willing to go ahead and turn in a post-test that showed that they had strengthened up their skills, we gave them some recertification points and had that as part of our plan. So other resources we turned to pretty quickly was IPDAE, who had already started to put out things for the GED 2014. These started coming out in 2015, 2016. We encouraged teachers to take advantage of those resources so that not only could they help improve their own skills, as well as the student outcomes. Here's just a few examples gleaned from the IPDAE website that we use to create some professional development in our district. A first look, most missed items on the GED 2014 test, GED update, lessons learned in 2014 and 15. These were wonderful resources, and much of the information there went directly into the professional development that we offered for our teachers locally. IPDAE also posted webinars and lessons to address skill gaps on individual subject areas like RLA, social studies, science, and mathematical reasoning. So they were a great resource for us so that we didn't have to recreate everything ourselves. By now, of course, we had a pretty good handle. We have a pretty good handle on GED 2014. We've been giving it about 6 years now. But this new assessment has also offered some challenges, as we all know. So we've started to develop a similar plan to address TABE 11 and 12. Now, we don't have a TABE ready exam like we did for the GED, but the process that we're using is the same. Our first choice was to utilize the TABE practice questions on the website, but it's quite a small sampling. And as we didn't know, it doesn't identify the specific skills or yield a detailed item analysis like the GED Ready does. So another alternative we've done, we found that the pre and post tests, and we only use the A and D levels, in the currently available print resources and software programs are an adequate substitute and do a fairly good job of identifying teachers' weaker skill areas that can be addressed, again, with those boot camp type of training sessions or in PLCs or community of practices. Pinellas relies heavily on that PLC COP model at a district level, but also at individual school sites. Not only is it a way to address common academic skill needs for teachers, but also serves as a professional development tool that teachers frequently express a strong desire for on needs assessment surveys, that opportunity to collaborate, share, and mentor other teachers. Though we initially used this teacher testing process 4 or 5 years ago when GED 2014 came out, many administrators still ask new teachers to take the GED Ready as a precursor to ensuring they're ready to tackle all the curriculum they'll be expected to teach. The GED Ready is a great introduction to the CCR standards and the test curriculum for those teachers that we have coming in that just haven't been teaching adult ed. So we're still kind of using that and bringing in some TABE things, and that's driving a lot of the professional development that we're having these last couple of years. In addition, research in adult education has shown in schools where professional learning is centered around school or site collaboration with a focus on student results, teachers feel less isolated and experience more confidence and job satisfaction. One way to accomplish this is the formation of PLCs, the professional learning community, or a community of practice, a COP. A COP is essentially a continuous collaborative effort among educators to maximize student learning. COPs can utilize job coaching, peer observation, and mentoring. These kinds of groups can allow teachers to share teaching strategies, solve common problems, and set instructional goals for their school. There's also time to analyze student data together, so teachers can identify what's working in the classrooms and what's not. In the last few years in Pinellas County, we've used the learning community model for several different purposes. We also form COPs when the need arises. Each year, the GED Testing Service releases data on how students at our testing centers are scoring in each subject. With that information, we're addressing those weaknesses by creating lesson plans based on the high impact indicators on the GED exam. That process that we have used and are still using was highlighted in an IPDAE webinar seen on the next slide. Also, as we just mentioned, when TABE 11 and 12 was first released, we formed a mathematics community of practice to create study plans, lessons, and an individualized student prescription form for each TABE level based on what students seem to be missing the most. Schools are also utilizing teacher testing results locally in their math community of practices to help teachers gain better strategies and curriculum knowledge to improve those student lessons. Here's the main page, one of the first pages from Expanding and Extending Learning through a Community of Practice. Put that out back on IPDAE on 5/23/18. When we use this as a professional development resource, our deliverables included lesson plans that teachers could use for instruction in the classroom, as well as for an observed lesson for their personal professional development plan, their Marzano evaluation. The idea for the community of practice was based around the high impact indicators that were gleaned from another IPDAE webinar. Several of the lessons developed in our community of practice are posted on the IPDAE website. Those particular lessons were GED level and based on those indicators from the GED testing service of what teachers should emphasize in their teaching. Here's an example from mathematics. In this high impact indicator, each participant contributed 3 to 4 lesson plans on a GED subject. Unlike some of our communities of practice, since we asked for deliverables that could be shared with all our teachers and published on IPDAE, we did include a stipend in addition to continuing education credits for participation in that community of practice. Most of our community of practices do not come with a stipend, but this one did because we were asking for things that could be shared and posted in other places. Again, PLCs and community of practices are a fantastic way to offer opportunities for professional development locally, but also to truly expand the reach and offer multiple resources. A district-wide solution is the best avenue to address a wider audience for collaboration. At the district level, we also use these community of practices in several other ways. Currently, we have a distance learning COP with teachers who teach online, ABE, GED, and ESTAL students. They meet quarterly to discuss common issues such as post-testing rate, which is always a problem with online, new online resources, the use of Blackboard lessons, and other distance learning areas of concern. Each main school has an Adults with Disabilities 504 liaison who's responsible for helping to write the 504 plan for any student at that site. They serve as a member of the 504 team for their school. And they meet with that team at the school whenever a student self-discloses they need accommodations. The district Adults with Disabilities Community of Practice is comprised of all the 504 liaisons for each school who share ideas and resources. They meet with ESE experts from the field and attend specialized trainings in order to facilitate that accommodations process in Pinellas. Since they also are responsible for deliverables, the 504 plans, and professional development at their schools, they receive a modest yearly stipend. The lead teacher community of practice we use is comprised of one representative from each main center for ABE, GED, and ESOL programs. These groups meet face-to-face quarterly, 4 times throughout the year. communicating by email when necessary through the rest of the year. In a large district like Pinellas, with over 100 teachers, we found this is the best way to ensure all teachers and adult ed staff get information in a timely and accurate fashion. Lead teachers sign an annual contract and receive a quarterly stipend based on school population and the number of full and part-time teachers at that main center. These amounts follow the Pinellas County Schools compensation manual, much like a department head in a high school. They also serve as the main contact for all new software programs, help to mentor new teachers as they come on board, and act as the main link between the district personnel and school staff. They also are asked to attend any professional development sponsored at the district level, attend state or local conferences, and if not able to attend, must try to secure a representative to attend the training or workshops and bring that information and strategies back to the school to share it with their school's teachers. Locally, our main centers have also started to jump on that COP bandwagon, and several have formed not district-based but school-based COPs for mathematical reasoning, language and reading, and more recently, TABE 11 and 12, and those usually meet during their regular monthly staff meetings. Since our PD surveys have revealed that teachers are continuously clamoring for more collaboration, we could think of no better way than offering a district-wide summer symposium to showcase the best teacher practices. Since 2012, the first Friday in the summer, that 4-day work week, we've offered a way for teachers to shine. Personally, I've always thought this is one of our best professional development ideas. Teachers teaching teachers. Originally, it started out as a way to get teachers to commit to sharing information gleaned from conferences and workshops that only a few fortunate educators get to attend every year. Though the ACE of Florida, COABE, and Florida Literacy Coalition conferences are wonderful, they're expensive, and our grant funds are limited. Often only lead teachers and district personnel are the ones granted access, not only to state and national trainers and presenters, but also to gain exposure to new products and resources from our adult education vendors. The symposium idea also allowed us to offer continuing education credits and trade days, which are built into the school calendars as a way to encourage teachers to take advantage of professional development. Vendors are more than willing to travel to your districts with enough lead time, and we allow them to set up displays and present sessions just like the big conferences. This gives all of our teachers that conference-style experience they may not get during the year. Last year, based on teacher needs surveys, we also included a half a day of ESE strategies to help them earn some of those 20 certification points they need for recertification of their teaching certificate. This was such a popular option, we actually repeated that ESE training later in the year for anyone who missed the symposium. So what if you want to host a symposium in your own district? It was a surprise to me at first, but teachers are sometimes reluctant to present in front of colleagues. They teach every day, but for some reason, to get up in front of a group of their own is quite intimidating. Sharing in a PLC or a COP or with teachers at your own site is not the same, as many have pointed out to me. To address this issue, we pitched the idea of co-presenting to alleviate some of that fear factor. This does help and will increase your pool of presenters. We also instituted a conference agreement form to remind them of the need to share the wealth when it comes to getting opportunity to access those great conferences. So this editable document is in your resource guide. This is the conference agreement form that we have everybody that attends an out-of-district training or conference. It states, your school administrator has made a recommendation to the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. You represent Pinellas County at the ACE 2019 conference. This is the one we used last year. By accepting this invitation to attend, you agree to the following: choosing and attending all sessions that will provide potential PD to colleagues, notifying my administrator as well as the central staff office if I'm unable to keep my commitment to attend this conference, This will help to ensure that grant funds used for my conference registration are not forfeited. Upon return, I will disseminate information to my colleagues through a means approved by my administrator. Faculty meetings, email, district trainings, conference reflections, summer symposium. Deliverables such as this ensure that grant funds provide the best return on investment. We don't insist that they present at the symposium, but the expectation is that they will share with colleagues in some form or fashion so that we can all learn from each other. Here's a sample of page 1 from our symposium program last year. You can see we try to have a mix each session slot that offers something for every program as well as a vendor presentation. The first 30-minute slot featured a session on online reading suitable for higher-level ESOL and ABE GED, teaching English using mobile devices for ESOL, using lesson plans from IPDAE resources, by the way, to improve your teacher evaluation, and a vendor presentation from KET, one of our software vendors. As you can see, we truly give all our teachers that conference experience with our sessions. Last year, we had about 20 sessions, and over 6 vendors came. A really good mix of software, ABE, GED, print resources, and ESOL vendors came. And they provided refreshments too, and little goodies, which was nice. So some tips if you want to stage your own symposium: start early. Vendors need lots of time. We've already started planning our summer symposium now in Pinellas in February. They're a great resource for goodies, and many will provide the snacks, the bags, book samples, etc. Scheduling time slots, ensuring that there's a variety of options for all groups, takes some time and effort. We found offering shorter sessions, 30 minutes works best, or a longer one if the topic really calls for it, will give teachers the most selection options and also encourages more teachers to participate. If they think they only have to present for 25 or 30 minutes, that's a lot better than saying you've got to do 3 hours. So we found that works great. Once teachers and vendors agree to present, they're asked to submit a title and a brief description for the program that we give out, just like a regular conference. I also offer to make copies or supply any items, manipulatives they may need in their presentations to give them as much support as possible. Try and include as much variety in topics so that all educators are represented with vendors. And you get to address all those different strategies and areas of focus. You know, whenever I'm out in a classroom and see a great lesson, or I hear a teacher discuss an effective tool or strategy, I always ask if they'll be willing to present with their colleagues at the symposium. So it kind of keeps it in their mind. And when our call for presenters goes out, we remind all of them, especially those ones that went to conferences, about that form they signed and how much we could really use their expertise. So I hope you have enjoyed the presentation today. I'm going to see if there's any other things here that we need to do. You know, I hope you've been able to glean 1 or 2 ideas that you can use in your own districts. Making the teacher the focus, whether it's by surveying their needs and wants, helping them gain the necessary curriculum support they need, or giving them opportunities to learn from each other will greatly enhance your programs and professional development experiences. If you would like any more information on resources we've used, a sample of our summer symposium program, lessons from our community of practice, data from our teachers' professional development needs surveys, any other questions, feel free to contact me. We all gain when we share with each other. So let's see if I don't see any questions at this time. So I want to remind you that IPDAE is always there to help you. The best professional development, as I've said all through this presentation, is ongoing, collaborative, and connected to and derived from working with students. We're always there to assist. And if you will, please take a minute to complete the questions that appear on your screen. We want to thank you for your input and look for our next webinar Wednesday. Thank you, everyone, for answering the survey. And as I said, look for our next webinar Wednesday. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.